friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop. Getting ready to start on a new project, and the theme of this project is I was better, but I'm getting over it. What do I mean by that? When you stop and analyze what that statement says, it means that at one point you were in pretty good shape, but now you're not in such good shape. Well, that kind of fits the bill on this one. This is a nice Taylor guitar. Looks wonderful. It's a beautiful guitar. I imagine it has a great sound. It's rosewood back and sides. Really pretty looking guitar. Except for the bridge is coming off. If I check it right now, and I will, it doesn't look too bad. If you check right here and you slide this under there, you can see it starts to go under there a little bit, but really only a little bit. But with the string tension on it, this will go all the way up to the pegs. With it being that loose, really the only option in my opinion is take it off and put it back on. You could squirt glue under there, clamp it, and I'd say you'd have about a 50-50 chance of it holding, but I tend to think it will pull loose again, and you don't know what's under there, not having taken this one off before. It could easily be that it's glued to a lot of finish, which would never really hold, or it could just be that it's just glued around the outer edge on the finish. I don't think it's set down inside the finish like I do them, but it will be when I get done with it. So here we go. And just for those of you out there keeping score, I just started the clock on this at 9:38 a.m. And let's just see how long it takes to get this bridge off of there. Well, I've got the strings off of it. By the way, I always put the pegs in the corresponding hole in this little holder, and that way I get them back in the same place. And some guitars it doesn't make any difference, but some guitars it really does. So there you go. That's just a little pro tip for you. This saddle appears to be micarta. Maybe not. It might be bone. I don't know. I would say it's man-made, but I might be wrong on that. It could be bone. It's bleached on the top side. It's yellowed. That makes me think it's micarta, but I'm not really sure without testing it here. But just in my hand, I would say it's micarta, just from the feel of it and everything. But anyway, we've got a under saddle pickup here, and I'm not real happy with those. But on the other hand, it looks like a pretty good one. On the bridge pad, I can feel some sort of a pickup in there also, stuck to the bridge pad. So we're gonna have to be a little bit careful with this. I don't know if the heat's gonna get to that or not. I doubt it. I don't think it'll hurt it. But I do have the pickup pulled down through the hole there. The other under saddle pickup is about right in here. I'm gonna take a look at that and see what that looks like. Yeah, it's one of those LR bags. That's what I thought it was. The only thing about that is it's put on at a fairly steep angle. It's not really directly under this. It's at an angle that would be, let's see here. I think you'd say it's at an angle like this, and I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think it's set under there just about like that, which I don't think is the way it should be, but I doubt it would affect it much. It probably doesn't change it very much. It's performance I'm referring to. So now my bridge heater that I made is up to temperature, or very close. Let me just show you a glimpse of that. So my bridge heater that I made, you can see here, is heating up. It's up to 386.9, so it's a little bit warmer than the 380 it's set to. But we can set this now on the bridge and start heating it up. So here we go. You can see moisture coming up through here. When you start heating these things up, it draws out all kinds of things. And there's definitely moisture down in the saddle slot that I can see. And I can see steam coming off the back here. This is pretty warm. So I'm trying to keep it directly over the bridge. The one advantage of using this small heater is that I can keep the heat concentrated right on the bridge. Where the big iron that I used to use, I would have to put cardboard down and everything. I mean, like my hand right up against it, and I don't feel any heat in the top of the guitar whatsoever. So it works really well. And all of these are odd shaped. People have said different things to me about why don't I make it such a way and such a way. But you know, every bridge has got a different shape to it. And so no matter what shape you make this thing, it's not perfect and it never will be. So you just gotta use it to the best of your ability on each bridge. Use it the best way you can. That's really getting warm, I can tell. Doesn't take long with a heater that gets that hot. I'm going to get my bridge removal tool and start heating it up. The problem with heating this up is you got to be careful going in under there. You can easily damage the finish. In fact, I may try to put some tape down. Well, I think I've got it hot enough. I'm a little leery on putting this on there, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of tape down. Honestly, I don't think the tape helps that much. In one way, the tape gets in your way. Even though it's so thin, it actually raises the height that your knife can go in on. I don't even know how I'm going to do this because it's such a curved bridge in the back. I'll just do the best I can. Probably have to heat it up again. By putting that tape on there, it actually raises the height of this, which changes the angle that you can go in. So it's good and bad. It may protect the finish a little bit more, but I doubt it, to be honest. It doesn't seem to help the finish all that much. I've done it before both ways. Got this heat back on there to heat it up some more, soften that glue as much as possible. That really helps. So let's try our first attempt and see how far we can get under there. Pretty far. Went straight in. Yeah, and the other thing about it is the glue gets sticky on your knife. Doesn't help either, so you have to kind of keep that cleaned off as you're doing this. And a lot of times I'll just take sandpaper and sand it back off. That keeps it slick and makes the metal slide under there better. It's going under there pretty well. The ends are not going to be as easy, I don't think, and it's really hard to get the ends heated up because of their odd shape. They've got the kind of an underbow cut into them, so this doesn't want to sit on there flat. It's going to make a little bit of a scar back here. I've got her off of there, and let me just see what the time is right now, and we'll tell you how fast. And it almost came off with almost no problem at all. So let's just check the time. The time is now 9:52, so we started at 9:38. I'll let you do the math. That was pretty fast. Well, I guess Arturo knew that one day we would see his name under here when this pulls off. I think that's what it says. It looks like A-R-T-U-R-O, Arturo. And that's a guess. I can't really make that first letter out, but that's what it looks like. And it's got a date here too, 12 something, maybe 20 something. It's hard to read it. It's pulled up. Very little wood came off on the bridge. It came off pretty cleanly. And it is like I suspect. There's about a 100,000th of an inch all the way around that was glued to the finish. So that to me is the first problem. And if you look on the bridge itself, you can see how this outer edge here was glued to the finish. That much right there. In my opinion, that's what starts the failure. And it just goes from there. Once it starts to turn loose, then it just keeps going over time. We're going to clean this whole thing up, clean this all up, glue it back on there. Poor Arturo's name is going to get scratched off, I'm sure. As I'm sure you've seen me do before, I have the bridge placed back on here, and I believe I've got it located right where it needs to go. I'm going to hold it down very tightly. I've got a brand new X-Acto blade, which is razor sharp, and I'm going to scratch as close as I can right around this bridge to just get rid of all that finish. When you do this, you really want to take your time because it's so easy to make a mistake doing this. Okay, I've got it scored and it looks real good. There's almost no scarring behind my score. In other words, where I took it off, there is just the tiniest little bit right here and the tiniest little bit right here. And other than that, you can't see where I put my tool in there to take the bridge off. And like I said, it's very minimal, so even that's not a bad deal. Now I'm going to just use my little homemade tool to pick the finish out of there. And again, this is just a little piece of aluminum stock that I cut a slot in and put the finger plane blade in there and tighten it down. I like that just because it's got the round bottom and I can rotate it and pick the finish out versus a flat bottom chisel, which would work, but it just seems to gouge more than this does. So this just works for me better. But a flat bottom chisel could work just as well if you spent your time with it. Now the finish is pretty hard, whatever it is, whatever kind of finish it is. So it's gonna make me work for it. No point in making it easy if we can make it hard. You have to be, exceptionally careful doing this, because if you get your blade under the main part of your finish, you'll lift up your main finish and then you got a problem. But it typically breaks right on that score line where you score it and typically leaves a very clean line. So right now we're looking real good. Hope we stay that way. I have carefully picked all the glue out from the perimeter, and now I am just scraping across all of the grain to just get rid of any glue that's on the surface. And it just takes a while. So I'm not going to show it to you, but Arturo's name is fast leaving here. Well, you can see the process. I'll show you what it looks like as I get ready to glue it back together. I believe I've got that cleaned up pretty well. I think I've got all the glue off of it. It looks pretty flat and smooth. You can barely see any trace of Arturo's name there now. Poor Arturo. Well, he had his 15 minutes of fame on my YouTube channel. So there you go. Now I'm going to clean off the glue off the bridge itself. So to do that, I do exactly the same thing. I just take a scraper and scrape it off. Now, since this is a good flat piece of wood, I'm going to start with this flat razor blade and see if it works. Typically, that's much faster if it works. I could be wrong, but it looks to me like they've actually milled a spot for the finish around this one. I've never seen that before, but that's what it looks like. And it could just be an imprint from the pressure over the time. There seems to be a slightly raised spot a lowered spot where the glue was and a raised spot where the bridge was glued to the top. So I don't know, maybe they did that on purpose. But either way, it won't be that way now, and having it completely flat just gives you that much more glue surface to glue to, so it'll just be that much stronger. Pretty much guarantee you it will never have been this strong before, so when we're done, it should be perfect. Getting my carpet nice and dirty. The sounds of a southbound freight and the high-speed hum. Well, there you see the whole thing cleaned in real time. That's exactly how long it took me to clean it, as you saw there, which was only a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes total. I don't even think it was that much, 2 or 3 minutes. It seems to be perfectly clean and flat. What I'm doing is putting a straight edge on it to just make sure that it is flat, because I don't want to glue it on there if it's got curves to it. It's a little bit curvy right here, not too bad. So I'm just going to work on the center there and knock that down. But I think it's pretty flat otherwise. Looks pretty good. I'm going to take this blade with the teeth and drag it a little bit across here, just enough to make some little tiny holes for the glue, because the main reason is that the ebony is so hard and so smooth, there's very little for the glue to hold on to. Just by making those little tiny rough spots, I think the glue will have a better grip. And I'm not trying to go very deep at all, just giving it a little bit of surface there to grab a hold of. And especially on the back side of the bridge, because that's where it always starts to come loose first. Okay, that gives a little tiny bit of texture now. Not very much, but just a little. And I think we're ready to glue it back on. Can you say roadblock? Well, I hope you can, because I just hit one. I was telling you about the inside microphone that was glued up to the top here. It's in the way of my clamping. So I'm going to try to get it loose. I think it's just stuck on there with some, like two-way tape type thing. I'm going to see if I can pry it loose or get this under there between the tape and the pickup and knock it off of there. I'm hoping I can do it with my fingers first, but boy, it seems like it's really stuck. Try to get a little closer look at it. Yeah, it's really stuck. That I should, get out the camera for you guys and let you see this inside, but the problem with that is it takes too much time. I'm going to try to get this little blade between the pickup and the bridge pad. There it is. Will it let me get it off of there? Success, we got it loose. And you can see it was just stuck on with those two little stick-on deals. And I was able to get the knife in both of those places and pry it loose. So now that's out of my way, and I think I'm clear now to glue the bridge back on. I think we're fine. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, we'll get that set up and I'll show you what that looks like.
Of a passenger train becomes a part of the soul and the heart of the mind.
Well, you've heard me say this is not the place to get in a hurry. Seriously want to make sure to cover every single little part with glue. Even glue can have an air pocket. I like to move the brush around and make sure that the glue is making perfect contact. Fill up every tiny little space with glue. Got a little more glue on here than I need, which is often the case in something like this. As you can see, I have the clamps on it. I put a caul on the inside just for extra pressure, or to keep it flat, I guess. And I'm getting very even squeeze out all the way around except for right back here. And that's a long way from the center of where the clamping force is. So that's a problem for me, because that's the area that needs to be clamped the best. Unfortunately, I don't know a good way to do that with the way this bridge is made. So I'm going to try using some wedges like this. I'm going to smooth these wedges off, because this one's not very smooth, and this one is just about the right size though. I'm going to drive it in there with a hammer lightly, and then I'm going to put more wedges under it to try to press this back down. Okay, I have the wedge in there. I'm going to tap it lightly with the hammer, just to set it in place more than anything. That will help put pressure on the back, I believe. I'm going to put another wedge in between there, between the wedge and the bridge, and see if I can get it to draw down a little more. I'm going to need a very thin one there to make that work. Thin, long one is what we need. I can see some glue coming around the edge now a little bit. It's definitely pushing it back down that way. I'm still not crazy about it yet. That's helping, but it still doesn't do what I want it to do. I think I'm going to have to make a special wedge, a bigger wedge, wider, thicker, that'll hold down better. This is pretty good. It's better than nothing, but I think I can do better. So that's what I'm going to do, take this out and try something a little better. I've made a wedge that's just as wide as I can fit in between the pads on this clamp. I drove it in, and it still wasn't tightening up, so I have moved this clamp backward to this wedge, and I'm clamping down that way, because I have to get that back of this bridge glued up, and I can see glue squeezing out now. I feel a lot better about it with that squeezing out there, because if you can't get the back of your bridge tight, that's the most critical part. And now I can see squeeze out pretty much the whole way, and that's what you have to have, in my opinion. There's nothing more important than to have the squeeze out in the back area